With the regular season in the books, the playoff bracket is finally locked in. We now know 4 of the 8 first-round matchups, and these 4 playoff series truly stand out. They won't just be entertaining, but they could end up reshaping the entire playoff landscape. Without question, the marquee matchup between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves will be cinema. That is a tall task for a young player facing off against a playoff-hardened defense. Then on the other end, things get even more complicated for the Timberwolves. Despite being one of the top defensive teams this season, with a roster full of elite defenders, they somehow don't have one guy who can guard Luka, and that weakness got exposed before. Go back to the Western Conference Finals last season, where Luka torched them as a Maverick. It didn't matter who they threw at him. Jaden McDaniels has the length, but Luka was able to throw him around like a ragdoll. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is simply too small, and while Anthony Edwards did have a couple of standout moments defensively on Luka, you can't realistically burn your best scorer on that assignment without draining his energy. And the worst case scenario, Luka gets Ant into foul trouble, and at that point the series would basically be over. Then add LeBron James into the picture, as they're also going to have to find a way to deal with him at the same time, and suddenly Minnesota's defensive matchups start to look pretty concerning. The Lakers' small ball lineup, while a concern in other matchups, might actually work the best against Minnesota. Gobert's lack of offensive punch means the Lakers don't have to worry about getting punished down low, so they can lean into their speed, spacing, and versatility without giving up too much at the other end. Now, as much as the Timberwolves have improved offensively since the All-Star break, there is one glaring concern that could absolutely come back to haunt them: Julius Randle. Yes, he's fit in nicely with the team, finding a niche as a physical presence and drive and kick facilitator, but his playoff track record is flat out rough. Across 15 career postseason games, Randle's averaged just 17.1 points on a dreadful 34% shooting, with nearly 4 turnovers a game. That simply won't cut it. If he reverts back to that version of himself in this series, Minnesota is in even more trouble. There is no sugarcoating it. And even if Anthony Edwards is lights out from deep, it's hard to imagine him doing absolutely everything offensively unless Randle contributes and the floor stays spaced. Anthony Edwards would have to go full Steph Curry just to keep the team afloat on that end. So while the Timberwolves are scrappy and well coached, I would have to take the Lakers in 6 games. And the reason I say 6 and not 4 is because I genuinely believe that Anthony Edwards is good enough to take 2 games away from the Lakers, even if this is a disastrous matchup. The Wolves also have guys like DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I do believe will be able to step up in big moments and help win a game or two. But over the course of a series, the matchups and experience clearly lean toward the Lakers. Alright, now let's dive into what's shaping up to be one of the most intriguing matchups in the Eastern Conference: the 4-5 battle between 2 foes, the Milwaukee Bucks and Indiana Pacers. These teams know each other all too well, after facing off 11 times last season, including a memorable 6-game playoff series that Indiana ultimately took. But that playoff series is a bit misleading when you zoom in. The Bucks did not have Giannis for a single second of that series, and Damian Lillard was only available for 3 games. This time around though, Giannis is healthy, and Dame could potentially make a return, and that alone shifts the entire dynamic. Let's first start off with the Bucks side of things. When Giannis is on the floor against Indiana, the Pacers have never really had an answer for him. He averaged over 40 points per game against the Pacers last season, and this season he's still putting up monstrous numbers: 30 points, 12.3 rebounds, and 7.5 assists across their 4 games. Indiana's lack of size forces them to send multiple defenders at Giannis every time he drives, which opens up lots of space for the outside shooters. And that is a huge problem when facing a Bucks team that's been knocking down threes threes at the second best rate in the league this season. The game plan feels almost too obvious. Get Giannis downhill as much as possible, collapse the defense, and kick it out to the shooters where they can let it fly. This game plan likely feels even more comfortable for Giannis given the fact that Lillard has been out recently and he's effectively taken over as the team's point guard, while being nothing short of electric in that role. He's dictating pace, making decisions, and keeping the Bucks in a faster rhythm that suits their team far better than the more stagnant style they often fell into. Giannis even said it himself. He feels more comfortable with the ball in his hands rather than being in the reactive spot. Honestly, that is where Lillard's strengths could complement him the best. Dame is most dangerous when he's making quick reads and pulling up from anywhere inside the half court. If Dame returns and the Bucks stick with this faster Giannis-led approach, they could unlock something incredibly dangerous. People have been calling for a 2018 LeBron-type playoff run from Giannis, and as a Bucks fan, I'm 100% here for it. Now, the wild card in the series for Milwaukee would certainly be the return of Dame, but don't sleep on Bobby Portis. After a 25-game suspension, I personally thought he would look rusty, but he's hit the ground running, posting 2 strong triple-doubles in his first 2 games back against Minnesota and Detroit. If he keeps that up, especially coming off the bench, providing a scoring punch when Giannis is sitting, that's a massive boost. Even better, Bobby Portis opens up some juicy lineup combinations, particularly one with Giannis at the 5 and Bobby at the 4, flanked by shooters like AJ Green, Kevin Porter Jr., and Gary Trent Jr. That unit in particular has been insane in limited minutes, including a furious 24-point fourth quarter comeback against Minnesota. In just 88 possessions, that lineup has an incredible net rating of 54.6, obviously in the 100th percentile for an overall lineup, and an offensive rating of 151.1, again in the 100th percentile, and defensively, they have a rating of 96.6, again in the 100th percentile. That isn't just good, that's absurd. And it could be a real X factor against Indiana's defense, especially in the pick and roll where they've been vulnerable. Alright, now let's talk Indiana Pacers. They earned their home court advantage and have quietly been playing some of the best basketball when it matters the most. Since January the 1st, they've quietly been a top 5 team in the league by any metric. Their net rating sits at a 5.4 in that span, and it all starts with Tyrese Halliburton. His playmaking has been surgical. He rarely turns it over, makes lightning quick decisions, and keeps the Pacers offense surging at a high level. He's playing the best basketball of his career right now, in my opinion, and in the back half of the season, he's been setting the tone for everything Indiana wants to do. Pascal Siakam has also been just as crucial. He might not have godly numbers, posting just 20.2 points, 6.9 rebounds, and 3.4 assists per game on 51% shooting, but his impact goes well beyond the box score. He's the kind of guy Rick Carlisle can ask to do basically anything in a game. Go and guard the opponent's best player, score 25 points, or go initiate the offense, depending on the night. That versatility is golden in a playoff series. And then there's Miles Turner, who might be Indiana's biggest wild card. His ability to space the floor and shoot threes at a high level could be key to pulling Brook Lopez out of the paint, something that would drastically change Milwaukee's interior defense, opening up easier driving opportunities as well. During their regular season matchups, the Bucks dared Turner to shoot, and Indiana didn't fully capitalize. But in a 7-game series with more time to game plan, you better believe the Pacers are going to be looking to exploit that weakness. Expect a steady diet of pick and rolls designed to get Turner open from deep. And if he starts hitting, that could force the Bucks to go small, creating driving lanes the Pacers haven't seen before. Ultimately, I think that's the most important chess move across the entire series, even if Damian Lillard does return. Giannis drives versus Indiana's help rotations, and Turner's shooting versus Brook Lopez's rim protection. These are all the things we need to be watching over the course of this series. But if I had to call it, I think Giannis is on the verge of tapping into something we've only seen from a few legends. If that's the case, Milwaukee will take it in 6 games. But if he doesn't, haven't entered that superhero mode, I think Indiana would take it in about 6. Now, let's dive into one of the most intriguing matchups out in the Eastern Conference, the 3-6 battle between the New York Knicks and Detroit Pistons. At a first glance, it seems like a pretty straightforward series. New York has the playoff experience, the bigger names, the expectations, and they will surely just handle business, right? Well, not so fast. This matchup carries a bit more weight than people initially think, especially when you look closer at how the regular season series went between these two teams. Surprisingly, the Pistons won the season series 3-1, and we've seen examples in recent years, like last season with Minnesota and Phoenix, where the regular season success for the Suns didn't carry over against the Wolves. But sometimes it reveals a matchup quirk that could be exploited. For Detroit, everything begins and ends with Cade Cunningham. In my eyes, he's the best player in the series, and his performances against New York this season absolutely back it up. Most recently, he put up 36 points and 8 assists in a win over the Knicks, looking completely in control of the game and unbothered by the Knicks' schemes. What stood out was how easily he was able to get to any shot he wanted, especially while operating in pick and rolls. Detroit repeatedly attacked Karl Anthony Towns in these sets, whether it was in cross matches or switches, putting him into no-win situations where stepping up means giving up an easy roll or dropping back means a Cade Cunningham easy pull-up jumper. Add to the fact that the New York guards are a bit undersized and their wings often struggle with quicker ball handlers, and you've got a real problem if Cade gets into rhythm. If I'm the Knicks, that is where the plan would absolutely need to start. Cut off the head of the snake. You need to throw everything at Cade Cunningham to dare everybody else to beat you. This is a young Pistons team with almost no playoff experience outside of a few veterans who frankly haven't shined as much in the postseason either. So face guard him, trap him, blitz him off ball screens, ice the pick and roll, whatever it takes. Just make sure you get the ball out of his hands. Make guys like Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr. or Tobias Harris be the ones to hit 8 threes in a game and beat you. Because if Cade is allowed to dictate the tempo, this series becomes a coin flip very quickly. The edge New York does have is their battle-tested core. Jalen Brunson has already shown that he can be a playoff monster, and he's going to need to tap into that mode once again. When he's on, he's knocking on the door of being a top 5 playoff performer in the league right now, and the Knicks will go as far as he can take them, but he's going to need help. This isn't a series where one man can win 4 games on his own. The Knicks need a full team effort, ideally with 4 or 5 guys putting up 15 points a night, and offensively, I can trust them to pick apart this younger Pistons team, but the real question is, can they get stops consistently going back the other way? New York's pick and roll defense has been absolutely shaky to say the least all season long, and even though the Pistons lack experience, it won't matter if the Knicks are giving up wide open threes and layups. That's how you get upset in the playoffs, not by making the younger team work for their points. The pressure is undoubtedly on the New York Knicks in this one. They spent big in the offseason, loaded up on depth, and made moves that they thought would put them as a solid title contender for years to come. Losing this series would not only be disappointing, it would be disastrous for the trajectory of their franchise. As for Detroit, they're coming in with house money. They tripled their win total from last season and weren't supposed to be here. They're young, hungry, and loose, which makes them a complete nightmare to have to face when expectations are sky high on the other side. If Cunningham continues to dominate and the supporting cast shows even a little bit of poise, the Pistons are more than capable of pushing this to the brink. So, who wins it? Honestly, this is one of the tougher series to call. Based on purely how the regular season played out, I'd actually lean Detroit. They've looked more comfortable in this specific matchup, but the playoffs are a different beast, with brighter lights, especially in Madison Square Garden, with the Knicks crowd being one of the most rowdy in the league. That is about as difficult of an environment as you could imagine for a young team like Detroit. For the reason of inexperience, I'm going to take the safe route and lean the Knicks, as I'd see them winning it in 6 or 7 games. But make no mistake, this series could be and probably will be a lot closer than many people think. Alright, now let's take a look at the 4-5 matchup out in the Western Conference between the Clippers and the Denver Nuggets. This is a battle that's about as intriguing as they come. The regular season series is tied at 2 games apiece, but the way both teams ended the year couldn't have been any more different. Denver is spiraling in a shocking late season development, They fired both their head coach and GM within a 2-hour span. The move signals a seismic shift for the franchise. Meanwhile, the Clippers are rising. They've been playing some of their best basketball of the season on both ends of the floor, and the chemistry is finally coming together. What started off as a huge blow, Kawhi Leonard being out to miss the start of the season, has actually turned into a blessing in disguise. It gave Norman Powell the opportunity to step up as the primary option, and now that Kawhi's back and Harden is firing on all cylinders, Powell's been shifted to the third option, while still playing like a second or first option, making the Clippers look so dangerous offensively. Powell has been exceptional, efficient, tough, and doing all the little things. And if James Harden does have some of those cold stretches we've seen from him in the past in the postseason, now the Clippers have Norman Powell who could step up and carry some of that offensive load. James Harden and Kawhi Leonard have formed a legitimate 1-2 punch. In their final game of the regular season against Golden State, one that had playoff implications, the Clippers were able to withstand a near perfect performance from the Warriors. Despite Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler both being on fire, the Clippers responded every time. James Harden finished with a massive 39 points, 7 rebounds, and 10 assists along with 4 stocks, while Kawhi added 33 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals, both shooting over 55% from the field. If they can do that against Golden State's pretty good defense, that is a terrifying thought for Denver, who frankly has been one of the worst defenses in the league. On the other side, defense has quietly become the Clippers' biggest strength. They have a deep rotation of wing defenders, Derrick Jones Jr., Chris Dunn, Ben Simmons, and Amir Coffey, who can all switch, pressure, and disrupt. This is a squad that can throw a lot of bodies at you without losing any rhythm on the other end. But the Nuggets, on the other hand, are in a very different place. I continue to harp on Denver for their bad defense, and if they were able to turn it around, they could have gone on a run like they did in 2023. But that defensive leap just never came. They still gave up far too many easy looks and don't have the kind of 3-and-D personnel needed to protect Nikola Jokic. If they want to win the series, Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. will have to light it up offensively because they're both liabilities on defense. The Clippers' offensive trio of Harden, Kawhi, and Powell presents a serious matchup dilemma. You'd assume that Aaron Gordon would guard Kawhi and Christian Brown gets the assignment on James Harden. But who do you put on Norman Powell? MPJ's simply too slow, and Jamal Murray, while talented offensively, is not the type of defender you want chasing Powell around ball screens or trying to stay with him on an island. That's a mismatch that LA will attack every single time. Maybe you roll the dice and insert Russell Westbrook into the starting 5 for defense, and maybe he even brings a little bit more energy against his former team. But his recent playoff performances haven't exactly inspired any kind of confidence. Then, one of the most compelling battles in this series will be Nikola Jokic versus Ivica Zubac. Zubac has been having a criminally underrated season and really could be in the running for an All-NBA selection. That's how good we're talking. Posting 16.8 points, 12.6 rebounds, and 1.1 blocks per game on 62% shooting. In that final game of the regular season against Golden State, he put up a monstrous 22 points and 17 rebounds on 69% shooting. But now he faces the ultimate test, the Joker, who just became the 3rd player in the history of the league to average a triple-double over the course of an entire season. Zubac realistically doesn't have a chance to win that matchup, but if he can just make the Joker work, that could be a game changer. Here's the thing, Denver is elite with Jokic on the floor. They have a net rating of +11, making them one of the best lineups in basketball. But when he sits, they become a lottery team very quickly, with a net rating swing of -20. That is insane. If the Clippers could simply hold serve while Jokic is playing and then dominate the minutes when he's off, the series would tilt very quickly. So yes, Denver has a shot. They have arguably the best player on the planet with Nikola Jokic, and that will always give you a puncher's chance. But I just simply do not love their chances against a team that's been as good on both sides of the ball like the Clippers have been. The Clippers have the depth, multiple defenders they trust in any moment, while having a three-headed monster offensively that they trust to create offense in the playoffs. If Kawhi Leonard stays healthy, which I think is the biggest if for the Clippers, I think they'll win this series in 6 games. And not only do I think they'll get past round 1, but I believe they could go very far this postseason. And if you want to see just how far I think the Clippers can go, along with every other title contender's realistic chance at the championship this season, you can check out that video right now.